It's still starting? All right, here we go, and we are live. So hello everyone, and welcome to the first OBANZ community call of November. And we're really excited today to have with us someone who stayed up very, very late indeed to talk to us, Benjamin Roome from San Francisco. So for those of you who are new to where it's midnight, oh my God, midnight. So here it's still it's 7 o'clock in the evening, but the next day, Ben. So for those of you who are new to OBANZ, the way that we run OBANZ is that we do the panel session here in Google Hangout, and then we also run a chat session that we run in Etherpad, in the Mozilla Etherpad, and I will just share with you where you can view that. Here we go. Start the screen share. So that is the link if you want to join us in the Etherpad. Sorry about that. I'm just seeing. There you go. That is the link if you want to see where you can join us in the Etherpad. So if you want to join us there, we've got a chat channel going there, and also collaborative note-taking that happens as we're all chatting and we're trying to capture what Ben is telling us and what everybody else is asking him. So with that. Let me see. With that, I'll just do a quick introduction of everyone who's on the panel, and then we'll go over to Ben. Now, if you're interested in joining us for other OBANZ calls, we run them every first and third Wednesday of the month, and we run them at 7 o'clock at night in Melbourne, which is 9 o'clock in the evening for all the Kiwis that join us, and I think it's 4 o'clock in the afternoon if you're in Perth. So we're basically trying to do an Open Badges call that is not that is kind of suited to our time zones. All right. So with that, my name is Joyce Seitzinger. You can follow me on Twitter as @CatsPajamasNZ, and you can also follow OBANZ at @OB_ANZ. The other people in the room with me here today are Bron Stuckey. Bron, you just want to quickly introduce yourself?
Yeah, hi everyone. I'm a consultant in games community and gamification, and which incorporates badges.
Thank you, Bron. And so the other person that you'll see here is Mark Smithers, who runs Academic Tribe together with me. Mark, you just want to quickly introduce yourself?
Hi, I'm Mark Smithers, and I'm an educational technologist. And as Joyce says, I work with her at Academic Tribe.
Thank you. And then finally, we've got Benjamin Roome, all the way from San Francisco. Just a quick intro, Ben.
Yeah, hi, I'm Benjamin Roome. I am the Chief Product Officer of Knowledge Stream Incorporated, and we built BadgeList. So I focus on lots of forms of education technology, but in particular assessment and competency-based learning. So very, very pleased to be here.
Great, thank you. Now, what we'll do, so we've got 3 people with me in the panel tonight, but we've still got room for other people. So if you've got particular interest in this topic, which is, a badge issuing platform, then just let us know in the Etherpad, and we will invite you to come into the panel so you can join us for the Q&A. What we'll do is we'll get Ben to Ben's going to do a demonstration of BadgeList and talk to us a little bit about the thinking behind BadgeList and how he and his partner came to actually, build BadgeList, what drove them to build BadgeList. And then after that, we will do a Q&A. But if you've got questions, please help us to capture those in the collaborative note-taking in Etherpad so that we can ask those of Ben. And he's happy to also be interrupted. Isn't that right, Ben? Yep. So. Excellent. So with that, I'll actually give it over to you, Ben, to just kind of get us started, get the screen sharing started, and I'm really looking forward to learning more about BadgeList. It's been one of the things that a lot of people have asked us about, like how do I issue, what platform do I use, etc. So it's an oft asked question within the OBANZ community. So I'm sure you'll get a lot of traction from tonight, and you'll get a lot of questions. All right, thank you. Over to you.
Wonderful. Thanks so much, Joyce. So yeah, myself and my co-founder, Hank Thompson, built BadgeList little over a year ago, and we became particularly interested in badges. So actually, when I was completing my PhD, I became more and more interested in different forms of educational measurement, and in particular the move away from summative assessment towards formative assessment and competency-based learning. And we actually built an assessment tool, and we realized we needed a clearer framework to sort of house the type of assessment techniques that we really wanted to encourage. And so we built BadgeList. Basically, we saw the badge movement growing and realized that badges would be sort of the perfect housing for the types of assessment and education techniques and practices that we wanted to help people to engage in. So I'm going to walk you through BadgeList. I'll just begin on the sign-in page. I'll start the screen share in a moment. And I'll walk you through a basic tutorial, the high-level structure of the software, and then I'll take you into a couple of badges that some of our users have made that have been particularly successful for them, and then I'll be happy to answer any questions that people have. So begin my screen sharing now. We went into infinity for a second when I was on the Hangout screen. So can you see my BadgeList sign-in page now?
Yes, we can see that.
Okay, wonderful. So here's the sign-in page. I'm just going to jump right in here. So this will be the basic home screen that you see when you jump into BadgeList. You'll see all of your learning groups and badges arrayed before you. Obviously, you won't have built any learning groups yet. You may have joined a badge initially, but if you sort of join in the blank, then this screen will just say you haven't built any groups yet. But it will begin with a quick tutorial up here, which you can also access in the upper left hand of the screen. So this just gives you a high-level picture of the purpose of BadgeList. The idea is that it allows you to create learning groups. The learning groups are basically just a learning community that allows you to create and then other people to work towards earning badges. So the group also gives your badges context and credibility. The group is usually associated with some sort of educational organization, whether it be a school or a corporate training organization or some other type of educational organization. So once you've created your group, and of course you can add as many admins to your group as you like, you go in and create a constellation of badges that mark the competencies or proficiencies that you want your learners to be able to earn. And we'll walk through these badges in a moment, but they just represent, competencies or proficiencies, as I said. So then at this point, once you've created your badge, you can actually award it immediately to other people who are already experts in that competency or proficiency. And then you can also invite other learners to the badge and describe the list of items that they need to complete in order to earn the badge. And then once they have demonstrated sufficient evidence for the earning of the badge, then you can go ahead and issue it to them. BadgeList is built on the Mozilla Open Badge platform, of course, so then you can export your badges to your backpack and display them on your social media. Okay, so if there are no questions so far, I will move into a couple of badges that have already been created by some of our users. So one group that I like a lot is the KUCRL, Kansas University Center for Resources on Learning. So they are a teacher professional development organization. They teach K through 12 teachers all different kinds of practices to use in their classroom, and they want to make sure that these teachers have properly understood the new pedagogical techniques that they're sharing. And so they've started creating a couple of badges for their word mapping strategy content. So you can see the basic structure of the badge very clearly right here. You've got, first of all, the title of the badge. You've got a little icon for the badge. And then there is a summary of the badge, just usually a 1 or 2 sentence description that says what people who have earned the badge have done in order to earn it. And then most importantly, down here you'll see a list of the required evidence that is needed in order to earn the badge. So each one of these items is a clickable item, which will take you into a particular screen that will summarize what's needed in terms of evidence in order to earn the badge. And then down below you'll see the group members and admins. So we've hidden everyone except for the main administrators from KCRL here and myself. So with that said, then I'll jump in from the high-level badge group into this SIM word mapping strategy level 1 badge. So here you can see again the summary of the badge. Down below you'll see a longer badge overview. So this is a very important feature of the badge. It gives a lengthier summary to really tell exactly what people need to do in order to earn the badge. And then the most detailed aspect of the badge is these required evidence items. So each one of these is a clickable link that goes to a wiki page that will then show that will describe in detail what you need to do in order to earn the badge. So for this one, they've just asked that each person who is earning the badge get connected with one of their coaches. So the coaches are certified sim learning strategies professional developers. So these are badge experts. They're the people that are going to be assessing the evidence that people have offered in order to earn the badge. And then if you go back to the badge, the learners who are in the badge that are trying to achieve it, once they have gotten together the requisite evidence in order to achieve a particular item, they can just click this button right here to the right, and that will allow them to post evidence inside the badge. And then the badge experts will be able to go in, look at that evidence inside the platform, and then determine whether the earner has effectively earned the badge. How are we doing so far? Any questions?
We've got quite a few questions piling up, but I think people are just kind of interested to see just a little bit more, and then I think we'll be ready to ask you some questions.
Okay, great. So I think perhaps so in terms of seeing a little bit more, do you have any suggestions or requests? I guess you know, a good thing to do would be to go in and actually show you how our badge building interface actually works.
I think that would be great. I think the badge building, yes, and I think also one of the things that I'm quite interested in, because I've played around with it a little bit, is the idea of the learning groups. Like, does an organization set up one learning groups? Does it manage multiple learning groups? You know, how big can a learning group be, et cetera, et cetera. I'd like to know a little bit more about that as well. But the badge builder, I think, will be interesting for people as well.
Great, yeah. So I'll speak a little bit to learning groups. So when you're in your home screen, as you can see, you can click up here in the right-hand corner to just create a new learning group. So of course you can create as many learning groups as you like for an organization. You know, for instance, if your organization engages in multiple different types of teaching activities and you want to create a different learning group for each one, you know, if you're serving completely different groups of students, and you don't necessarily want to confuse students with a large number of badges, I would say it would make sense certainly to create multiple groups. You know, I can imagine a learning group getting a little bit cluttered, for instance, if you had more than, say, 10 badges in any particular learning group. So I would probably want to break down the learning groups by badge sets at a certain point, just so that you know, you don't overwhelm your users at any particular point. So yeah, I think if that sort of answers the question at a high level, happy to discuss that in more detail as we move in. But for now, I'll hop into our main badge list group and walk everyone through the construction of a badge. So you can see in here we've got a couple of basic badges. And actually, if you join BadgeList, I encourage you to join the BadgeList group immediately. It's just badgelist.com/badgelist. And so then you can join this group. You can join any of the badges inside. That means, for instance, with if you join the BadgeList Helper badge and you need help from the community for thinking about how to best deploy BadgeList for your context, this will give you a quick overview. And then we also have various community members that have successfully deployed a badge system using BadgeList, so they're often quite willing to help answer questions for you about how best to deploy BadgeList. So I'll go back to the main BadgeList group, and then you can see here under this banner, we can just click Create New Badge up here. So I will just make a really simple badge. We'll call it Badge Builder. This is kind of a simple demo. This one will say this badge is earned by anyone who has created a badge in BadgeList. And then importantly here, under the required evidence, you want to separate these requirements one by line, and then those will actually sort out into the list of requirements that you saw in that completed badge. So for instance, the first one will be sign up for BadgeList, and then we'll say build badge, and you'll see this will now display as your list of required evidence items once we actually hit create on the badge. So if you want to randomize the badge, you can certainly do that. We have lots of badge images that you can move through randomly if you don't want to spend the time to customize badge. Most people do want to customize their badges, so then you can just hit the badge editor button, and you'll see we have lots of different icons from the Noun project here. So people tend to like this ribbon one I've found, and then you can see we've got all sorts of different icons for the badges. We've kept this simple up until now. We don't want to worry people too much with the interface about building sort of high-tech, highly designed badge, but we are going to be changing and basically adding a feature so that people can upload their own badge images if they want to. But for now, you can sort of customize your badge. You can see up here I've chosen this lotus image and the ribbon frame for the badge, and then I can come down here and choose my background and foreground colors. I'm always a fan of purple and green. So after you've done that, then you can just bring this down here, click Create Badge. Oops. So let's see. It looks like it's still choosing the badge image right there. So I'll just redo this real quick. Let me know if any other questions come up while I'm handling this. Okay. Let's see.
Oops. One of the questions that's coming through is the ability to upload your own images. Can you use your own graphics for badges on? And they said question answered, so that's fine.
Yeah, great. There we go. Okay, good. So I think maybe the name of that badge had already been taken. I must have built that badge somewhere else, and so that's why it didn't want to let me make a duplicate inside this group. So anyway, now you'll see this badge creator badge has appeared under our badge group, and we can hop in here. You can see the two evidence items that I've listed: sign up for BadgeList, build badge, are listed there. And then if we click on the badge, then again those will appear in this bulleted list. And then what I would need to do actually in order to complete this badge is actually create the requirement page. So I would have to come in. This is basically just a wiki-like interface. We've got the requirement name up here, and then I would just have to say, in order to complete this requirement, you must create a BadgeList account. And then that will be displayed for everyone who is looking at the badge. Another feature that we're going to be adding soon is right now we've opened it so that you can choose either only experts or experts and learners can edit the badge requirements. We'll be adding a feature that allows admins of groups to restrict the any changes to the badge only to the admins of the group. So that's obviously something that's going to be important for people who are kind of creating a greater strictures around the structure of their badge. Part of the purpose of BadgeList is that it's really a community tool. We want to allow people to develop the badge as time goes on in relation to the work that they've done. If people discover that really, one item, one evidence item is really two pieces of evidence that people have to show, they can break down a required evidence item into two options. And so we really wanted the software to be as collaborative as possible, but we realize that people do need to create restrictions sometimes as well. Okay, well, I think that concludes the tutorial of the badge creation system. So yeah, happy to discuss any questions people have that are coming up.
All right, great. There's lots of questions.
Great. Yeah.
So, I will just jump in just because I've got the mic, and just because it was just something that we talked about earlier today when we were just quickly catching up as well, was that whole idea of having the so on the one hand, like an expert, which is somebody who has already attained the badge, would be able to issue it to somebody else. So that's almost like peer issuing, and so then I guess the first thing I should say is that once you guys add that organization/admin restriction for a badge system, that actually fits in with that whole three-tier badge design that Carla Casilli has written about, and I've just posted the link in the note-taking there, but basically where she talks about this whole idea of having the organizational system that you've got, and then room for instance, at the team department level to also add badges, and then at the individual community, the more social kind of level, to also add badges. But that all of those things together make up the larger kind of badge system. So I think that would fit in with that, and it's a really interesting read. So I just wanted to share that with people. And I think what comes with that is there was a question from people about the ability for people to do the social gifting of badges, what the options for that are. Was that from you, Ron? Did you want to? I think that was a question from you.
Yeah, it is for me, because I think there's more than just issuing from the center that we need to think about, and especially if you're going to have people on this system who are called coaches or sitting in a mentor role, I think there needs to be the capacity of the community to issue badges to each other horizontally, not just hierarchically, and also down the line for participants to create badges and issue them. In recognition of appreciation of other people's work in contributing to their learning.
Right, absolutely. And I think it fits nicely with Joyce's comment about Carla Casilli's notion of this sort of tiered structure. So we're very interested in the possibilities for lateral learning. I think.
Sorry, I'm just going to interrupt you just briefly because your screen sharing is still on and we can't see your face.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I'll turn that off. And I was wondering whether we should, whether people would want to look at the software at all more. And if some specific question comes up, I'm certainly happy to go back into BadgeList and show people. Yeah, wonderful. So, so the possibilities, I think, for sort of lateral learning structures and the social awarding of badges, we're very interested in. So you can, of course, just create a badge and issue it immediately to as many people as you want. You don't necessarily have to write specific requirements in there. You could just write, you know, a quick summary of what someone has done in order to earn the badge, and then just issue it to as many people as you like. But I think, you know, in a step below there, sort of deeper than that, there are also possibilities for peer-to-peer learning. You know, one of the things that we've been interested in is the engagement problem for massive open online courses. A lot of these organizations seem to have basically taken the university model of lectures and just ported them onto an online context without really thinking about all the possibilities that the web and web-based tools have for really driving engagement within these classes. So some MOOCs have really started to move the ball on this, but for the most part, we've been really interested in the idea of you know, allowing students to talk to one another, to work with each other, and think about you know, what sort of steps each other need to take in order to gain a deeper understanding of the subject matter of the course at hand. And so we really want the software to be able to be capable of all those levels, organizationally all the way down to the individual level.
Well, I think there's a point there about issuing badges. I mean, do you see that there's a possibility there for me to actually issue myself a badge? I've completed all the requirements here. Do I have to wait to apply for a badge? Now, just having been through Connected Educator Month, which had a really good badging system, but every single badge on that system you had to apply for. Okay, you're going to supply your evidence, but you had to apply for it and then wait for someone to issue the badge. And it still seems to me like very central control, where I think there should be some badges that I should be able to say, yeah, I've completed all these requirements. I should be able to award myself that badge.
Yeah, so I think that's an interesting point. And then the concern is just about validation, right? So the meaning of a badge is in some sense in relation to the badge issuer. So if you issue yourself a badge and you say, look, you know, for instance, I know how to program in Ruby on Rails. I can do this and this and this, and you could actually, for instance, link your own evidence to your GitHub page. You know, if you're a software developer, you could make your evidence available to whoever wants to see it, and then this would be a great way, for instance, if you wanted to post this on your LinkedIn, you could say, I'm a Ruby on Rails developer. These are all the things that I've done in Ruby on Rails, and then link straight to the evidence that you've generated for that. So I think, you know, as a credentialing system, one aspect of it is the person that issued the badge, and the other aspect of it is the evidence that you provide. And we really focused on making sure that BadgeList was a tool that would foreground the evidence in relation to the badge. So I think you certainly could do that with BadgeList, and it would probably work well as long as you post evidence that's meaningful.
So there's a few follow-up questions from that. I will start with Kim Flintoff. Hi, Kim. I will start with his question, which is, can learners create their own engagement pathway through their own personal badges? So this was something that I was asking you about as well, which is that, you know, could I go in and see all of the badges that would be available to me and kind of like decide that I'm going to choose to aim for this one, and that will be my first way marker, and then this next one will be my next way marker. And he's asking, especially when pursuing complex tasks for high-level accreditation badges, because just a little bit of background, Kim is working at Curtin University, where he's running a badge project, and so one of the things that I really like about BadgeList is the fact that you do have that ability to actually add multiple criteria to each badge, because that immediately makes it more complex, and that there's the ability to actually add more information about each of those criterions as well. So so the question is, can learners create their own engagement pathway in order to find personal badges, to move from
great
badge?
question. Yeah, great question. One thing that I didn't display during the demo is that when you create your learning group, you will decide whether the learning group is a private learning group or a public learning group. And we've actually promised that all public learning groups will be free to the person who's created them forever. So what that means is that if you are, willing to make your badge public, like if there's no reason for the badge to be private and you're willing to issue it to anyone who supplies that evidence, then anyone who has joined BadgeList can go and join any public badge that they want to. So then in that way, I think you really could create your own learning pathway. For instance, I'm trying to think of a good example, but if you wanted to, for instance, demonstrate that you were a product manager, and that meant that you wanted to show that you had experience with user interviews and with data analysis and with project management systems, then you could go into various badges and tutorials. You could sort of bring together an entire constellation of badges, and then I think one way to structure it would be to bring these things together, because the way that Mozilla Backpack is structured, you can bring together different constellations of badges. So for instance, you could actually say on your backpack, this is my product manager badge group, and then you could show all of the different badges that you'd earned for all these various competencies, proficiencies, and skills that you've been able to demonstrate, because obviously I think we all know no job is just one skill, right? You have to be able to demonstrate multiple skills in order to be considered proficient in any role in a company. And so we definitely do want to make it, and I think we have designed BadgeList already so that you can bring together these groups and as Kim has said, to design your own learning pathway.
So with the learning pathway, so just following up from a little bit of discussion that's happening in the chat, which is that people are saying, and this is a discussion which we seem to have every single OBANZ meeting, and I think it's because it's on everyone's mind, is how credible are self-awarded badges, and again, I think that's that is absolutely a valid discussion. But of course, part of that is always the evidence that sits behind it. And so, from what I understand, BadgeList is one place where you can actually submit that evidence. And can you also post the evidence there? And then there's a related question from Leo around does BadgeList interface with other portfolio systems or repositories where people could be posting evidence?
Yeah, great question. So right now we are working on our API, and we do not have any integrations. One area that we've certainly been looking at is LMS integration. So we've been invited to integrate with Canvas already, and we just need to put the development time into integrating with their API, which is actually very robust. So certainly we're looking at LMSs. But right now, the main place for people to display their badges is the Mozilla Backpack, which obviously then can be pushed to various forms of social media. So a lot of other LMSs are focusing on homegrown badge systems. Canvas is very focused on having a sort of ecosystem of various tools that are sort of plug-and-play add-ons to the LMS. And so if there's demand for that, certainly we're willing to do integrations. It's certainly a feature of the software that we can develop if that's what people need to see. And a product roadmap is always sort of based on what's most urgent with the active users. So if people are interested in that, certainly you can get in touch with me. Just send me a message at ben@badgelist.com. And then we'll discuss that and add pieces to the roadmap as we see fit.
Yeah. So currently there is no way. So if I earn a badge in BadgeList and it gets awarded to me, while I'm logged into BadgeList, I can see which badges I've got. But there would be no way for me to actually display those badges through BadgeList. So I guess I guess what I'm saying is BadgeList is an issuer but not a displayer. If you're talking,
Oh, no,
badges.
actually, so any public badge, and this is actually one of the structures of BadgeList that Hank worked very hard on, is to make sure that the URLs are extremely intuitive. So you can look at any badge that anyone has earned publicly on BadgeList at any time and look at all the evidence that they have provided in order to earn the badge. So I guess I misunderstood that question a little bit. But yet, no, you absolutely can display your badges in BadgeList and then create links directly to the badge, and then under your badge it will show the evidence that you offered.
Okay, all right. And so so I could share that page, like I could share like a profile page that would show my badges to, if I wanted to send it to someone or I wanted to post it to my LinkedIn page, I could do that. And I can also, because they're just part of the OBI, I could actually import those badges into the open backpack.
Yeah, exactly. So you can do it both ways. You can either do it through the badge list or through the backpack, or you can just link directly to the badge, and then like the URL will contain your username, the badge that you've earned, and then it'll take you straight to the badge and all the evidence that you've proffered.
So there's a question here. There's a question here from Blair. Hi, Blair in Dunedin. He says, are public badges a possible privacy issue? So having all of the badges out there to see without being able to hide them, is there privacy there? I could certainly see some institutions getting very rattled about that idea.
Yeah. So here's the thing. It could be an issue, and basically, if it is an issue, then in some sense, it's our position that it's your job to make your badges private. So certainly for I can see for younger students, for under 13 students, this could certainly be an issue. And I think if younger K through 12 instructors want to use BadgeList, then they're going to need to create a private learning group. But I think for everything else, if you're an adult and you've earned a badge, I mean, it's a credential. The point is to display it. So I don't really see the value in sort of keeping it secret, except for younger people.
I'll just see whether anybody else on the panel wants to weigh in on that issue of privacy and public badges, etc.
I have less of a problem with public and private badges than I do the notion that every badge has to be verified by an institution. In your interface, you use the word community, and this is something that I feel very strongly about. And there is a bit of a discussion going on in the MOPAD chat there where Richard said then the community is a peer evaluation process, I suppose. And I think that's very true. There should be a mix of badges, some of which I could issue myself and do in my own speed. And if I've provided the evidence, and I'm part of a community where people are working towards those same badges, people would call me out if I just randomly awarded it to myself. So I'm not saying all badges, but I think there needs to be a mixture. It really is kind of tedious if you're by virtue submitting an assignment each time you apply for a badge. There should be different ways that you're earning them, different ways that they're issued, and different ways that they're validated. And, I think if you're going to use the term community, it should operate as a community.
Yeah, absolutely. And I certainly like that idea that some badges, are not necessarily tied to some particular assignment, right? They could be issued just for a particular activity, or for any action really that you want to issue the badge for. So I think I'm definitely with you on that. I can imagine a badge group where some of the badges require lengthy evidence, 10 or 12 items, and other ones where you get a badge just for for attending meetings or being active in any kind of community discussion. So I think that's sort of part of the gamification aspect of badges is that we want to be able to drive engagement in every way possible. So people are able to earn badges, some of which are are specifically connected to learning evidence, and some that are connected to other types of activities.
Sorry, I was just losing myself in the moped there and everything that was going on there. But an interesting question from Blair, and that's actually related to something that I was thinking as well, because, like with all badges, at some point they can stop being valid, or you could find out that someone's actually been awarded it wrongly. So Blair's question was, do the self-awarded badges maybe bring up the possible need to be able to invalidate an awarded badge? So what are the options for that in BadgeList? And I suppose my question that's related to that is, what about the possibility of expiring badges? So where, for instance, you're issued, and the example I always use is I used to be a Red Cross lifesaver, like a lifeguard, and it means you have to update your registration every year. You have to do a test every year, and you have to update that. And so is there an expiration possibility? So is it possible to retract a badge, and is it possible to expire a badge? So it's still visible, but it just shows that it is no longer
right.
Yeah.
It's lapsed, yeah. Great questions, both. So first of all, I'll just say that my co-founder Hank has been very, very interested in the idea that skills, in some sense, have like a decay rate. Certain ones do and certain ones don't, and certainly there are lots of types of certifications that exist right now that need to be reacquired on a yearly basis or whatever. So that is definitely an idea that we've been looking at. Right now, it's not in the software, but it's certainly something that we'd consider adding. With regard to retracting badges, and I think it is important to have the community really look at what people have done, and ideally at a certain point, actually, when we first designed the software, we were requiring that everybody's evidence be checked by 2 experts. We realized that was a little bit overly rigorous, especially for people whose badge group had just been created by one person and they didn't even have 2 experts yet to start exploring evidence. But we do want to encourage people to go over evidence, to check through it, and certainly if the type of badge that you're issuing is one that may have an expiration date on it, then it becomes all the more important to have other community members checking in to make sure that evidence is legitimate and timely. So yeah, that's my response to that. I did see our other friend in the group trying to talk a minute ago, and it looks like she came unmuted, but I couldn't hear her. So, yeah, hi there.
Hi.
All right, so just
I'll try again. Thank you.
Okay,
Sorry, having technical difficulties due to my laziness, not because of the technical side of it. Just on the issues of privacy, I was watching a TEDx talk today of a child who's experiencing gamification in his classroom. And one of the key points he made was that he wants his failures to be private. He doesn't want someone looking over his shoulder, and he doesn't want the teacher to be assessing him while he's feeling threatened and intimidated. And he doesn't want his classmates to know. And then he showed all of these games that he plays where his journey to mastery is a private journey. But once he succeeds, then he wants his mates to see that badge. And on the concept of mates seeing badges and the point earlier about learning pathways, watching Xbox Live for many hours of my day with my children, seeing what your mates are up to and seeing the badges and achievements that they've earned is inspiration for your own learning journey. So I'm wondering how your interface may integrate that.
Yeah, that's great. So to speak to the first point about privacy of failure, so I think that is an excellent value to have here, and certainly we don't. The way that the software is structured, you will post evidence only after you feel that evidence is complete. So when we were looking at the demo, you see that button that says post evidence. you could do all of your work completely, outside of the software. So, for instance, if I've asked you to write something or do something on an Excel spreadsheet, or you can imagine infinite different ways to create evidence. You would only link to the evidence or post the evidence after you felt that it was complete. And so, in that sense, during the learning process, that part can be completely private for you. We don't expect you to be working inside BadgeList. And the way the interface is set up, really, actually, it makes more sense for the work to be done elsewhere in in the various softwares that are available for work production, whether it's a Google Doc or whatever else. You can also actually link to YouTube videos. You can link to audio tracks. You can post images in BadgeList. And all of those things only become public when you choose to post the evidence. So in terms of guidance, though, there has been an important feature of BadgeList, which is about expert guidance. That's what we really want to make available for the learners using the software. So once you post the evidence, the expert can then come in and take a look at the evidence that you provided and respond to it. So then they can either say, this evidence looks great, go ahead and move on to the next item. They can award the badge, or they can give you feedback. This part looks good, but I'd like to see you complete that. And so once that happens, you can then just delete the evidence that you've posted. You can delete the response. So then that is not a permanent part of your record. You do have to post it. And if it's in a public group, then that evidence will be public. But then, once you receive feedback on it, you can just remove it from the record. And actually, now that I think about it, I think evidence, you can, when you post evidence, actually toggle between whether it's public, like completely public, or whether it's only visible by the experts in the group. So that's not, let's say, full-scale privacy, but if only the experts could see it, it's sort of like having only your teachers see your homework, right? Like, and then turning it back into you face down. So, if you got an F on your test or whatever, then it's not like the rest of your your class needs to know about that. So we're certainly not into sort of creating a culture of shame around badge evidence. With regard to the other aspect of that, about seeing what the other people are doing in your group, the other members of the badge group are all just arrayed under the group. So you'll be able to see, if you click on your on another learner's profile, you'll be able to see all the evidence that they've made public so far in the software, and then see what they've been doing. And actually, that's another possible technique for lateral learning, that you might be able to go in and take a look at one of your co-learners' work and gain inspiration and insight from that. So that's something that we wanted to make available too.
All right, so just an interesting one, which is not so much a question, I think, directly to you or specifically about BadgeList, but just an interesting one that Leo just threw into the chat. And I did try to pull Leo into the panel, but he said he didn't want to. But he said, what about the concept of verified badges? And I think this actually goes to, there's about 3 really interesting discussions happening all at the same time in the Mopad at the moment. But this goes to the discussion that people are having about self-issued badges and community badges, and who awards what. And so Leo says, is there this idea of this concept of verified badges? So the badge could be issued automatically, or it could be self-issued, but then it could perhaps be verified, like visually shown by some kind of stamp by either peers or an institution. So that's almost like adding like a 2-tier validation system. So on the one hand, somebody says, I've earned this badge, and on the other hand, then somebody else can come along and say, yes, you have. So I think that's a really interesting thing that I haven't really seen, I don't think, in any of the badge systems.
Joyce, that issue actually came up in a conversation about verifying badges from other countries. So, for instance, if I earned a badge from Harvard, could I have it verified as relevant to Australian curriculum by an issuing institution here? so that it would be the badge plus something that would verify its relevance in another context. And I think that's really an interesting addition to the whole badges idea. If I've earned a badge in a MOOC, could a university give it that final stamp to say, yes, you've earned this badge, and yes, it's relevant?
Yeah, and I think that's really interesting. So there's two things. So there's really two levels of that. So on the one hand, this is the verification of badge earning, which is the situation that I was describing, which is somebody says I have earned this, and then that is verified by either an institution or an expert. And I think that the thing that you're talking about, Bron, is the endorsement of badges. It's the saying, yes, we recognize that you've got this badge, and we will say that it is equal to this, or we will actually endorse that badge is a useful badge to have, which is really interesting. And I know that they've been doing a lot of work of that with the Badge Alliance, and I know that Kim Flintoff is being really active in the chat channel at the moment, and he's been doing a lot of work on this at Curtin. So I'm kind of hoping that I can nudge him to come to the next OBANZ, and we can all have a bit more of a talk about that whole endorsing thing, because I think particularly when all of these higher education institutions are doing all of this badge work, it would seem crazy to kind of duplicate all of that. And how do those trust and endorsement systems? How are those trust and endorsement systems going to work? Specifically to BadgeList, though, is it possible to recognize that another group created this badge and we will pull it into our learner group?
Can I just quickly jump in and say that yesterday I sat all of my students down and said, here's a student list and here's 6 areas. Issue master or mentor badges for everybody in the class. And at the same time, our internet went out and we didn't have the portfolios to look at for assessment, so we had to do it real paper and pen style. And it was so accurate. I was really impressed with how each little group, and I'd appointed them as masters of their guilds at the beginning of the year so that they knew exactly which area they were the nominated experts in, and people have been going to them for advice, and they actually knew better than me who was competent and who wasn't. It was really refreshing to see that they had those levels of observation.
That's great. I love that. And so in our conversations, Hank and I have actually described what you described, Joyce, as endorsement. We describe as translation. So we are developing a protocol right now to allow different organizations to translate badges or constellations of badges that might be available in their organization into the badges that are available in other organizations. And that's really grounded in evidence. So speaking to the verification question as well, so this is a feature, the notion of verification of a clear stamp, right? Something that is like encrypted or in some secured in some other way in order to make sure that the badge is legitimate is a very interesting question. And actually, the company Accreditrust has really focused on that as their main feature set. For us, what we're doing rather than focusing on that type of security is just bringing it back to this notion of evidence and how different organizations view the meaning of evidence in the relationship to the credential. So what we really want to do is create a standard that allows organizations to communicate with one another and decide whether their badges, quote unquote, translate, or in your language, would be endorsed by the other organization. So I would love help thinking and talking more about that. If people have ideas for what sorts of processes an organization might go through in order to deem the evidence or even the completion of an entire badge legitimate and verified for the earning of a badge under another organization's requirements. It's a great topic, and I'd love to think more about it.
Yeah, and and just related to that, I'm just reading up on the chat and seeing that Kim is saying that they're looking at underlying real-time analytics to determine completion requirements, which I'm not like, so basically I'm imagining that would be that you could say, oh, I'm going to do this badge, and then it would actually kind of check how you were doing along the way, in the which just, so I'm really interested in seeing how that will work, particularly if you then say we're going to start endorsing each other's badges, because I could see how you could do it in your own system, but how are you going to do it with somebody else's system? That's, you know, the whole thing just seems to become so complicated. Yeah. So now I'm just aware that we've only got about 5 minutes left. So I just want to go around, and gosh, it's been a great conversation and lots of information in the Etherpad. One of the things that I just want to share with everyone is that we have got a domain now set up for OBANZ, and on which we're just currently putting a WordPress blog. So we'll be able to actually put all of this information in one space and start to capture it a bit more centrally than where it's currently been, which has been kind of in Google Plus and kind of in Twitter and kind of on Scoop It. So just letting you know that that is coming up, and if anybody wants to volunteer to help us with that, that would be great as well. But we've just got 5 minutes, so I'd just like to ask all of the other panelists, you know, any final comments or questions, and everybody else in the chat channel as well.
Yeah, just on that point of comparing competencies across different organisations, the vet sector, which I'm most familiar with, has the Australian Qualifications Training Framework, or AQTF, and the primary and secondary schools have just moved into an Australian curriculum. And I'm not that familiar with university, but I can see it's actually happening with the younger children first, that they can be very granular and basic about what these achievements are. So it'll be much easier to share those across different schools. And then in the vet sector, it should work that we can share it across registered training organisations fairly easily if you're talking about the performance criteria level, which is available in XML format. I'm trying to get my hands on it if anybody knows how I can find that. And I'd love to see that imported into one of these systems so that you can pick existing performance criteria and then prove to your teacher you've actually already done this boring OH&S thing in this unit, and not make them do it 20 times throughout their qualification because our computers can't catch up with the fact that you already know how to sit on a chair safely.
Thanks.
I think we also don't have to stop getting so caught up in academic badges, because they're not the only kinds of badges that will exist. And I think, you know, recognition for prior learning, recognition for learning in the workplace, all of these things have to be able to come together in various ways. And we're not always dealing with knowledge assessment. We'll be dealing with assessment of a lot of different capabilities and competencies. And I think we have to keep a very broad picture, an open mind about issuing badges, you know, and not charge full on into one pattern of accepting that they're all going to be academic, accredited by, you know, institutions. I would like my badge backpack to be a reflection of me and my personality and my identity, not just my academic attainment.
Yeah, and I would totally agree with you, and I'm really keen to, I would be really keen to have a guest speaker on OBANZ, you know, who's been doing that kind of workplace learning. I mean, we had Tara, of course, last time from Core Ed, who showed us what they were doing for Connected Educator Month, which was fabulous, but it's still academic related, and I'd be really interested in hearing from a completely different, like, non-education field, like an organization that is doing badges. So if anybody knows of anything like that, you know, maybe you might know of some that you're working with, Ben, and then we'd love to hear from them, because I think it would really change the conversations that we've been having. So that would be really great. Mark, any final comments from you?
No, I just wanted to say thank you to Ben, because I learned a lot, and it was really well presented, and it's a fabulous job that he and his team have done in a short space of time. So well done.
Yeah, absolutely. And I just want to say thank you to Ben as well. So I know that there's a virtual applause that we've got on here, but, you know, I haven't familiarized myself. So I'm just going to do this. Thank you, Ben.
Well,
great.
Thank you all so much. This is a great community, and I loved all these questions, and I really, really like to continue thinking with you all more about these questions that have come up there. things that this is part of the joy of being in this area of education technology, and I love that many of the questions that have come up today are questions that have come up between myself and my co-founder. I know he'll be very interested to look at this meeting and to join in the discussion with you all in the future. So thank you all so much. It's been a great pleasure.
Yeah, well, thank you again. And the Etherpad is there, where everyone's been doing the collaborative note-taking, and the chat is there as well, so you can kind of go back and see the kind of discussions that people were having. Finally, I just want to say to everyone, and I'm just scrolling down to the end, to line 143 in our mopad, which is that there are other Open Badges events in Australia and New Zealand. Sorry, one of them's there, and that's actually now over. We did the Knowledge City thing last week. And the 13th of November is the big National Digital Credentialing Forum, which is happening at Deakin University, but it is being streamed to many different locations. So you should be able to get to a location near you and actually participate in it. I know that Curtin University, they are doing, they're a hub. I know that QUT is a hub, so there are lots of different places where you can actually go into this, and it is a veritable...
Wollongong is a hub as well.
Yes, and it is a veritable who's who of Open Badges world. So that's next week, the 13th. And if you're in Melbourne, you could also go to one of the workshops that they're organizing the day before, on the 12th, to actually get hands-on with some of those excellent presenters. So with that, I'm going to thank I'm going to thank Ben again. Thank you, Ben, and I'm sure that you've encouraged some people to go and have a go with BadgeList. And I want to thank my co-facilitator, Bron, for always being here and always asking the pertinent question. Thank you. And I want to thank Mark and Natalie for coming along and being willing panelists. Thank you very much. The next OBANZ call is in 2 weeks, so I hope to see all of you there. And we're still looking for a speaker, so all suggestions are welcome. Just ping us. All right. Thank you, everyone. Thanks very much.
Thanks, everybody. Good night.
Cheers, everyone.